Well, I am sorry about that. Slight technical issue. No idea what that was, but I just refreshed YouTube and we're all sorted. So, this is it's going to be probably end up being a bit of a brief one tonight. I think episode 251, the future of cities. There was a little report put out not that long ago by both Network Rail and what they call WPI Economics, some think tank type consultancy type situation, and it caught my eye as something that I was interested in picking through. I haven't had a proper look at it yet, but I've quickly swept through it, and a couple of things stood out as being quite interesting as things to be said. So I figure it might make sense to have a look, see if there's anything useful for us to learn. I'm not going to be scoring it because it's not a policy document. It's just sort of a piece of think tanky stuff. If you want me to have scored it, then so be it. But I'm not planning on it. So, episode 251, crikey, we are entering the domain of the DMUs because, of course, we have to dedicate tonight's episode to the Class 251, TOPS Class 251, which is the Blue Pullman. The 251s were the... Oh, golly. Wait a minute. What, the 251s in the chat, British Rail Class 251, were they the... I think the 251s were the Western version of it, rather than the... Let's see, 251... not clear, but there are basically two versions. There was like a Western region version and the London Midland region version. I wonder... Yeah, the 8-car sets for the Western region. I can't remember which is which, but the chat might know. In any case, it's irrelevant. It is these sets, and there's not much said about. Well, maybe there is. Interestingly, I hate the HST that's been painted into blue Pullman livery. Looks awful. It's a livery not designed for that train, and it looks dreadful. Conversely, I think the kind of inverse intercity executive type kind of transitional livery works quite nicely on these Pullman vehicles. It's the same as the Mark IIIs originally had on them when they were being run as part of the prototype HST. Interestingly, these ended up telling us a lot about what the HSTs should look like. So there is a link between the HSTs and also the connection between these running on the Western region and the HSTs, of course, running on the Western region. Anyway, here it is. Class 251 very much does not exist anymore. There is a project to recreate one. I don't know how far that project is getting at the moment, but I much prefer to have a something that is actually the vehicle rather than just slapping a random livery on an HST, a random heritage livery on an HST. Anyway, this is all moot. You're not here to talk about trains. Well, maybe a little bit. In fact, maybe all of you are precisely here to talk about trains. Well, marvellous. But we're here to actually scroll wheel through a PDF because that's how Rail Natter rolls. Everyone, welcome to tonight's show. As the City 225 fades away, those who listen in audio-only version as well will notice I do get rid of the weird pause between me saying welcome to tonight's show. I intend for there never to be a pause, but sometimes it happens for technical reasons, like me half being alt-tabbed into the wrong window. And I've got my cursor showing today as well because we're going to be flicking through this PDF. No, first of all, some news. 2 bits of city news that I want to talk about because... Right, get my large face up. Hello, everyone. Random liveries on wrong units can be fun if they're not being done for, like, annoying nostalgia reasons rather than, like, this is a fun, silly thing to do reasons. I'm not convinced, given who is in charge of that train, that HST that's in Blue Pullman livery, I'm not convinced it's been done for this is silly and fun. It's been done for this is a cynical cash grab, and I don't really care about the heritage particularly. I just... know that the people who will pay a lot of money to travel on this train do. And so I dislike it for that very reason. Andy Bell, hello everyone from the Grand Union Canal at Berkhamsted, 20 metres from the West Coast Main Line. Andy, that sounds like a fab spot. Glorious, one might say. Kerr has just had a cornetto and has a sore head. Brain freeze. Put your tongue on the roof of your mouth. It helps really quickly. That's my top tip for brain freeze. Put your tongue on the roof of your mouth. It's really nice. Deirdre's with it. Detour is with us live. Hello, avid watcher of this on W2IP. That's right, I see your comments in the chat, Detour. Anyway, Gareth was talking images, not necessarily IRL. Hello, Jack Elliott. And lots of the favourites. Hello, all the spanners who are hanging around in the chat as well. Marvellous. Right, enough of this rubbish. Caroline JM, hello. Lots of people joining us for the chat. Let's get rid of my face and do a little bit of news. So, firstly, doing things works. Some city news for you. So, Paris's battle against SUVs. 3 months after the price increase, 2/3 fewer SUVs are parked on the streets. The tripling of parking fees for heavier vehicles has already borne fruit. In addition, the cities decided to relax this measure by accepting craftsman analysis. This is an automated translation, so it's a bit of a weird one. But there we go. So that's quite nice. They're good. Some successful implementation of, who'd have thunk it, doing things works. In similar news, Manhattan gridlock comes to intersection. NYC's congestion pricing appears to be making inroads against heavy street traffic, says NYU, New York University, Rudin Center's Sarah Kaufman. Thank you, Sarah Kaufman. An interesting little piece written by NYU. I don't know where NYU is on the problems spectrum. But anyway, this paper quite nicely sums up the kind of where things are at with the success of the congestion pricing so far. Again, doing things works. Remarkable, isn't it? Absolutely remarkable. Who'd have thunk it? Michael C is saying tax vehicles based on weight. Yeah, absolutely. Road pricing with a multiplier for weight. Yes. NYC road pricing has worked out great. It's unreal. Yes, it is quite remarkable. So on the subject of cities, I don't know why I've introduced myself a little lisp there. On the subject of cities, we're going to talk about this report. Hello, I'm in the corner. The future of cities, adapting to changing behaviour and ongoing trends. It's published in January 25. A WPI Economics report for Network Rail. So a report done for Network Rail by WPI Economics, and I'm interested to see what the report contains. Hence why I've got the cursor out so that I can wibble it around and you can see where I'm pointing to. So, the document. We know what Network Rail is. We know what I don't know what WPI Economics is, but makes an impact through economics that people understand. Policy consulting, data insight. So that's fine. They're doing a consultancy. Their little consultancy thing. That's fine. And you all know what Network Rail is. It's the state monopsony that owns the majority of the rail infrastructure of GB. So, this document is only about 20 pages long. So we're going to see what it has to say. And if it's a super short episode, then so be it. They never are they? They never are. A forward here from... Wait a minute. Forward, yep. A forward here from my boss. Correctly. Well, here he is. Sir Andrew Haynes, the Network Rail's chief exec. Talking about cities. We always skip through forwards, and that's precisely what we're going to do because... well, you know what? No, it's not, because there are some things I want to pick out that Andrew's picking out here that are interesting. There's lots of stuff about rail being fab, and you know what? So the first two paragraphs are just saying what's going on. There's the digital transformation of work over recent decades, burgeoning AI revolution, present opportunities for greater productivity in many areas, yet dense city centres with an agglomeration of sectors create microcosms of our national economy and support productivity, employment growth, creativity and innovation in a way that the evidence shows cannot be fully replicated through virtual encounters. Spot on. So the case Andrew is making there is the one that we make, which is that's all fine and good. Yes, pat on the head about the tech stuff. But you need to just be with people and in a space with other people around you. Not necessarily specifically about your employment place, but broadly, like, we thrive when we are surrounded by our peers. That's certainly something I feel very strongly about. In a situation where productivity is already constrained in many cities, particularly outside of London, that's another point that I'm not just going to agree with Andrew because he's my boss here, although hello Network Rail comms people if you listen to this. No, I will be robust in, if Andrew says something I disagree with, I will say so. But So far, I can see, he's not saying anything I disagree with here. So, rail can support cities' growth through the new and changing reality they face. Rail's core offers the ability to transport we know this stuff. High volumes of passengers at speed within and between urban areas, and high volumes of freight between ports and markets. Absolutely, at low cost and with low emissions. While electric road vehicles will reduce the UK's emissions, they won't transform the speed of journeys on congested city streets or on motorways. Bingo. Very nicely put. Fundamentally, rail is an enabler of economic and social activity. Yes, fine. Beyond its direct financial returns, absolutely. It's a very important thing to know that the potential boss of the new GBR thinks that. We must ensure our long-term plans secure growth and productivity, support national net zero targets, absolutely, and provide the high-quality services people, business and cities require. That requires us to look beyond the indicators we have on passenger markets and travel patterns to build a richer understanding of how our economy is evolving by region and by sector. Agreed on that front. In today's fiscal environment, we must make the best use of the investment we have. We should also push for new investment, Andrew. But, okay, yes. Can see why you might have to say that. That's fair enough. This deeper insight allows us to better target funding to meet future needs, driving revenue growth to ease the call on taxpayers. Okay, fine. From the Industrial Revolution to today's AI breakthroughs, railways shape the landscape and economy of our city. I wrote a book about this, yes. The reforms underway to bring the leadership of train services and infrastructure together under Great British Railways, continue to hate the name, removes significant constraints in addressing rail's long-term strategic challenges, allowing for greater financial sustainability and better performance for our users. Yeah, broadly agree with all that. There are a lot of missing steps in between, but you can't put them all down here. GBR will enable us to closely collaborate with city leaders to devolve decision making. This is where I caught my eye on this, and this is why I wanted to read this forward, which I'm realizing I've been doing increasingly. That's because this is a very interesting little tidbit, is referring usefully and correct and in a way that I am reassured by, at the relationship between devolved cities and GBR, and I saw that a bit in the devolution white paper, kind of being nodded towards. Yes, 47 billion more a year could be unlocked for the national economy if the 8 largest cities outside of London met their productivity potential. Yes, but to unlock that, you need to, and more, frankly, you do need to invest, and that's the challenge. I can understand why Andrew is not saying that here, but government ought to take the hint on that front, frankly. Devolution as an integral part of rail reform can help make this a reality. Yeah. Andrew, if you don't have a copy of the book already, I'll sign and send you one. I would like to thank all those people who are okay, fine, yeah. Thank you, marvellous. So let's have a look at this. So there's an exec summary which we are going to skip because it's a proper exec summary, 1 page, marvellous. We don't need it because it's only 20 pages anyway. Chapter 1, key context, pandemic, remote working and the shape of cities. So the text in here is really difficult to read, so I will apologise for that. There's all sorts of much chat going on in there. Hello everyone in the chat, marvellous. Do correct me if I'm wrong, but that 47 billion is about half the figure Centre for Cities came up with. Yeah, I can believe that. So cities across the globe were significantly impacted by the pandemic. Yeah, we know that. Once the initial health crisis started to subside, questions were immediately asked about the shape of the new normal. Some of this centred on how people would travel in and out of cities in the future, but much of the discussion went beyond to more fundamental shifts in what a city is for. However, not all of these shifts were new. Many were a continuation of changing behaviour that was visible well before 2020. Oh, that's a thing I've been saying for a long time, isn't it? That's good. It's reassuring to see. Good. That is the context in which this report was commissioned by Network Rail. 2025 offers a moment to take stock of the key trends that were emerging before the pandemic, such as the then slow growth of remote working and the shift to online retail, and newer shifts that have cemented themselves since, such as the growing role of leisure as a driver for city visits. Much has been written about which trends were accelerated, decelerated, or unaffected by the pandemic, but the story is not yet over. To explore where things stand now, we've focused on 5 themes, detailed in the next section, and explored with a range of businesses, sector representatives, and others how these might shape British cities into the future. There we go. So they talk a bit about Zoom. Yeah, so obviously big growth in remote working, although Zoom is horrible. There's 49% of people, let's see, it's important to bear in mind that in the 2021 UK census, 49%, so half of people did not work from home. So that's half of people didn't work from home, but what's interesting is within that, there's a lot of people who are unable, what was it? I think there's 1 in 4 people consistently don't work, like are even able to work consistently from home. So yeah, I'm interested to dig into those numbers. I wonder if they'll pick up a bit more on it. Beyond the commuter picture, there's also a shift in what people are traveling for. The usage of cities is changing, with many more leisure visits, seemingly more thought behind each trip, and a greater focus on affordability. Yeah, traveling on a peak train versus travelling on the first off-peak train in the evening, it is quite marked how much people are just ignoring the peak train. Again, get rid of peak fares, pointless. Just remove peak fares and make all off-peak fares just the regular. Yeah, that was in 2021 when COVID was still around, so a lot of people might have gone back to work since then. Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for reminding me, Michael C. That census is annoying because it was half of people did not work from home in the midst of still having lockdowns and heightened pandemics and heightened pandemic communication and literature and such. So yeah, it's a bit misleading that that 49% is a bloated number of people who were not working, like, or rather is an underrepresentative number of people who were not working from home. Oh my God, Skype, you're awful. There is no way to block people from adding you on Skype, and it is exceptionally annoying, and I have absolutely no idea what to do about it, because obviously I need Skype for Rail Natters, because that's what I use to hook people in. Thoughts on a postcard, if anyone knows how to wreck your... Microsoft, fix your crap. I know that nobody uses Skype anymore, but Bitcoin mining scams do, so get that sorted. Anyway, I digress. Forgive me. So, discussions. Let's see. This report focuses on the UK. Similar conversations have been underway in other cities across the globe as we head to a new normal post-pandemic. This has been particularly visible in the US, with cities such as San Francisco seeing major shifts in commuter patterns, reductions in commuter travel overall, and lower public transport revenues as a result. However, in Germany and Spain, commuter travel is now only slightly below pre-pandemic levels, 3 and 5% below respectively. In France, the volume of commuter travel is now greater than before the pandemic, a trend that has continued despite significant disruption. Differences in geography, labour market structure, cultural attitudes towards hybrid working, and different subsidies explain much of these differences. That's a bit of a cop-out. Meanwhile, in France and Germany, leisure travel increased by 15% and 10% respectively compared to the pre-pandemic baseline. So what this is saying is places that actually have some care, those countries are not perfect, but they have some more heed and care for people travelling by public transport, and they have seen broadly a return to the same levels of commuting within cities. So yeah, people's realisation of the fares really are awful, and I will think differently. That I would say the main difference the main thing that's driving the difference in that behaviour between the UK and other countries is cost and congestion. The cost of rail is eye-wateringly different for passengers particularly commuting regularly. It's a lot of money, and I think that's one of the big differences. That perception of affordability in the UK compared to other countries is a significant factor, I would say. And the euphemism here is different subsidies, but what that means is more or less subsidies for rail travel. Yes. Anyway, the way people across the globe are using cities is changing, and in this context that we selected our themes for blah, blah, blah. Okay, right, let's have a look at these themes. So there's the context. Chapter 2, finding our themes. So they've got a load of things they've said. What are the themes? Okay. For each of these themes, there's 16 themes, and they're going to thin them out. Okay, marvellous. So we got central themes, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5. These are okay. So lots of themes. Okay, fine. They're picking their themes. Many themes. So they said 4, but the 3. Okay, so from this analysis and in discussion with Network Rail, we identified 3 central themes and 2 supporting ones, which overlay and influence the others. So the central themes are commuter city, knowledge city, productive regional city. Okay, interesting. And the supporting themes are sustainable city and leisure city. Okay, well, marvellous. We'll understand what the relevance of this such consultancy speak, but that's fine. We'll understand what these are talking about in a minute. I suppose the themes to just discuss, maybe. So commuter city, the rapid shift to remote working during the pandemic changed how people interact with their workplace, how they commute, and their impact on local communities. Is this permanent? And if it is, what does it mean for the appearance, culture, infrastructure, and purpose of the city? Okay, so we're going to go through each chapter and look at these and explore these in some detail. Knowledge city. As information sharing, education, training shifts online, remote working is more widely adopted. Cities' role in knowledge and skills clustering is undergoing some change. Will the demand for clustered labour markets remain? Yes. But okay, fine, we'll explore that. And then we'll look at the third central theme is essentially looking at the varied levels of investment in and support for cities across the country, meaning that there's not consistent growth and productivity in the various cities. What would a future with optimally productive regional cities look like? Not just through the investment into individual cities, but through the benefits of agglomeration. So the things that I talk about a lot of invest in your other cities, £5,000 at least per head in cities outside of London, minus the limited local investment there has been. So that's to the tune of like 10 billion roughly for most of the big cities. In the top 3 or 4 cities outside of London, you're talking about 10-12 billion quid extra for them to spend. If you look at combined authority populations, those numbers are much bigger. So there's a lot of money that ought to be getting spent that isn't, and that those cities are frankly owed. And then the supporting themes are sustainable city, fine. That's when they say sustainable, what they're actually talking about there is climate resilience by the look of it. Consumer expectations and new technologies. Oh, no, okay, there's a more broad look at sustainability. Fair enough. See my PWI lectures. Leisure city. How do people enjoy cities? Okay, fine. A thing that is important for cities, absolutely. What's their definition of a city? Oof, no real idea. Our selected themes are then assessed against the key research questions outlined above to develop a big picture understanding where the theme is now. Okay, fine. Let's start. The commuter city. 3 key takeaways for the future. The commuter city persists, but people come in less frequently and want better experiences at work when they do. I mean, okay. There remains a high degree of variability in current and future demand for office space with a continued flight to quality. The change in commuter patterns also changes the services on offer, which has knock-on effect for the shape of the leisure city. Yes. So these are all things that seem quite UK-centric in the way that we've screwed up the way we commute. Like our economy is less of a doing real things economy and more of a doing fake things economy, and that means that there is that does change the level of impact in our larger cities of traveling, because people who have spreadsheet jobs don't need to go to work quite as much as people who have real jobs. The fancy hat bloke picks it. What the city is? Which fancy hat bloke? Yeah. Miles, any idea what they're talking about? No, I don't know either. Right, so okay, fine. So there's the rise of hybrid working. Well, we kind of know that. So there's a load of data. As ever with these page turns, often it's an exercise in me pointing out there is data that you folks can then go in and pick through. So let's have a look. Ben Rattigan, by the way, pointing out rightly, like the definition of a city is kind of important, but yeah, we'll see what they mean. So this new hybrid model of working represents a permanent change, even if exact patterns may continue to shift. In 2023, 44% of all workers in Great Britain reported home or hybrid working. So that, flip that on its head, that's quite a small number if that's just people who are doing some home or hybrid working. Yeah, so, yeah. Also build the world you want rather than, don't chase the trends, build the society that you're interested in seeing. Anyway, among home workers, some of the most common benefits reported include improved work-life balance, quicker to complete work, and improved well-being. It depends on how much you hate working from home. I hate working from home, so different for me. But lots of people love it and find it really good, and it is useful. The flexibility is absolutely useful for me as a parent, for sure. 42% of workers would consider quitting or looking for another job if their employer expected them to return to the office full time. Ian Wright from Transport Focus, the genie is out of the bottle now with respect to work-life balance, and the upshot is that the offer of flexible working will remain an important incentive that employers offer to get the best workers. Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that's a good thing. I think people should have the option and the choice depending on what their individual circumstances are and how to exploit it. However, I will note that in lots of domains, for example in engineering, I think it's really, I would, and while I was briefly kind of leading the team professionally, was encouraging my team to come into the office, including the most senior staff and the most junior staff. Often the middle bit staff were coming to the office anyway, but I was encouraging the junior and the senior staff to come into the office because everything I learned was by overhearing people around me and kind of just listening in and being around other work going on. And I frankly, you will never reproduce that in the virtual environment. You just never will. And so I do have strong feelings about engineering needing to happen as part of a team of people who are actually rubbing shoulders with each other. Days when I'm in in my office or virtual office, not virtual, but my various offices that I'm now working around the UK are far more useful when I'm seeing people face to face, like far more effective and good days. So yeah, I'm sure there are other sectors where it's a similar situation, but I do strongly feel that engineering it works best when people are co-located in teams, however that ends up looking. But the flexibility is valuable, So I think, I wouldn't enforce a 5-day working week, but maximizing the amount of time that teams are working together, sat with each other, is really important from my view for engineering. So okay, fine. So there's a little bit of data in there. Fine. Implications for cities going forwards. Oh, that's quite a wordy page, isn't it? Crikey. There's a lack of nice infographics to explain some of this data. I think I would have maybe gone around this slightly differently, and I would have probably used some visualizations to explain some of this data. There's just basically discussion about reducing the size of office space, so reducing the size of space and then increasing the quality. Smaller multinational firms plan to expand their office presence in the next 3 years. So there's a mixture of Knight Frank is saying that 50% of employers and more than 50,000 staff intending to reduce office space by potentially up to 20% in the next 3 years. But so interesting. These findings point to a high degree of variability in current and future demand for office space. So the picture is complex. There you go. So yes. So what else? There's this. Further ahead, strong preference of hybrid workers for a shorter commute may yet further alter the demand and function of office space. One of the things that I think is interesting that isn't picked through here is the ability to spread the economy very nicely back into towns and even into rural areas where you have SMEs and stuff who don't now need to be located in. So long as they've got, this is where the railway can be really powerful. Is that suddenly, if you've got a team that is working, they don't have to be in London or in the big city to be a important entity. They can be somewhere where in the past they might well have been looking, sort of in the East Midlands or even in take a tech startup or a tech company based in, I don't know, Matlock that does things to do with, I don't know, laser-based gauge clearance analysis and infrastructure. They could be in Matlock without having to relocate to Derby. That you could have a company that has a small business, family run or locally run or a cooperative or whatever nice model you could choose, and it doesn't have to. You don't have to drain it out of a smaller community and drag it to the city. If you have good rail connections and people are more comfortable with that working, then you can actually encourage people to. The benefit of the way we now these trends is that you can actually encourage people to have a nice quality of life by living somewhere nice. You can have the co-location of the team because those people can be, a core of the people can be in the nice place and working kind of local to it. But the good thing about the railway connection, which is something that Matlock does not necessarily benefit from in very good quality, is the connection. The railway provides you a reasonably fast link into the cities if you need it. So certainly opportunities here. They're still building new office blocks in London. Why? Because for the most part that's to do with money laundering. I wouldn't worry too much about it. That's just how our economy works. It's mostly crimes and vibes. So let's see, the decline of the daily commute has also led workers to reevaluate where they live in terms of proximity to city centres. Survey analysis conducted by LifeMove suggests that many workers, despite commuting less frequently, have a strong preference for an even shorter commute than before. That's interesting. Almost half said they want to live within 10 miles of their workplace, while almost 2/3 said that access to public transport was important. Now again, there are two ways to look at that. One way, more accommodation and mixed development, mixed use in city centres, which I kind of all for that as well. But equally, flip that on its head, then that means, well, have more working places near residential areas, whether that's within cities or within towns. Clustering within cities is something we've been hopeless at. We've had a nasty habit of creating enormous single zone areas and therefore not mixing employment and residence, residential buildings and opportunities. Yeah. Premiership footballers need somewhere to place their money tax efficiently. Yeah, absolutely, Ben Radigan. Yeah, absolutely. Jack Elliott's pointing out that London does now have quite a few centres. Absolutely. The decentralisation of cities is not a bad thing. The best cities actually have multiple sort of little cores. Ina saying, people have realised commuting sucks and they don't have to live with it. Yeah. Quite. And you can have better commuting. And certainly if you're driving for commuting, that's awful. I'm now, weirdly enough, I'm finding myself in a situation where weekly I am... we like to have our quiet constraint days as working from home, trying to code as much easier without disruption, says Ditore. Yeah, absolutely. Different working, different types of work. Yeah, and likewise, I have days when I prefer to knuckle down and get on with doing a thing, and that works better when, I don't know, ADHD still means that I do those things generally better if people are around me. Anyway, Rail offers those opportunities to decentralize those, cores of mixed residential and employment receptors. Given these findings, more flexible and infrequent commuting is projected to reinforce long-standing trends in the residential composition of cities. Younger workers will continue to live close to city centres, while workers with families will prioritise suburban areas with direct transport links into the centre. The longer-term outlook is less static. A shift towards the hub-and-spoke office model has the potential to fundamentally alter the residential makeup of cities and the nature of now hybrid commute, whether at a city level reducing demand for intra-city travel, or at a national level increasing demand for intercity travel as employees gather regularly at the hub. Okay, yep, fine. Finally, changing the volume pattern. Okay, that's very wordy. We've spent a lot of time on this, but it's interesting stuff, right? So that's okay. So that was the recommendation here. Let's have a read through the recommendation. While commuter volumes remain lower than pre-pandemic, 49% of people cannot work from home. According to a census where things are different, so that number should be higher. It's saying half of people cannot work from home, and most of those who can do not do so exclusively. If more companies do shift further towards a hub and spoke model to take account of changing preferences, this only increases the importance of connections between cities and towns, as well as within them. In this context, further investment in service planning for suburban lines and stations may be needed, with knock-on potential benefits for local economies. It's basically saying build more trains. Well, they would, wouldn't they? And rightly so. So the knowledge city. Okay, so 3 takeaways for the future. Improved digital technology and increased familiarity with home working have not driven a permanent move to only working from home. That's a extremely useful finding. Fair play. Dynamic agglomeration benefits persist in cities and have not been fully replicated digitally, something that is unlikely to change in the next few years. As workplaces allow for ideas to be exchanged within companies, cities will continue to allow for the exchange of ideas between companies and sectors. Absolutely. Yeah, do we need to dig into any of that? I'm just flicking through here and see if there's anything that catches my eye. It's difficult to see anything catching my eye because there's no headings and it's just an enormous wall of text. WPI, I have complaints about your... Look at this, it's an entire page of just text. Difficult to pull out key features here. There's probably some interesting data and interesting observations, but okay. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, let's just drop into the recommendation here, because despite the shifts in how cities operate that have taken place, a move to a fully remote workplace has not become a central feature. There is significant potential to lean into evolving cities to harness the benefits of dynamic agglomeration and to support it. I'm going to come back to that sentence. Agglomeration is the effect you get of greater than the sum of their parts situations in cities, is what agglomeration means in this context. There is a significant potential to lean into evolving cities to harness the benefits of dynamic agglomeration and to support increased growth and productivity. The sentence doesn't really say very much. The knowledge hub model has significant potential but needs to be supported by investment in transport infrastructure and housing stock to ensure it can drive the widest possible benefits and not see these limited to only the higher paid. Yeah, that's a legitimate challenge. Fair enough. Right, the productive regional city. Let's see what is said here. Yeah, we can go through here and have a little comparison of numbers. So if you want to go back to that previous chapter and pick out numbers, sure. Ina pointing out something very interesting, which I also want to say, just very astute observation. If you commute less often, suddenly a car becomes a lot less competitive with rail services, even if they are as expensive as they are now. Would be amazing for modal shift. Absolutely. There are serious benefits to that shift in pattern. And it's amazing that the railway has, or the powers that be have threatened this, have hung this over the railway as we need less railway rather than, good God, we need more railway. It's baffling. Truly baffling. Right. Disparities remain not only between regions but between cities, with the benefits of agglomeration accruing more to smaller cities in the south than those in the north due to lesser connectivity. That's referring to Oxford and Cambridge. Investing in the productivity of these cities is likely to remain a priority, as an additional £47 billion per year would be generated for the economy if the 8 largest cities outside of London met their potential. I'm sure the number could be larger, and these numbers are largely made up. It's always 47, isn't it? It's always like that 47, 49. Achieving this would require denser cities with further investment in rail infrastructure to increase the agglomeration effects, and help attract businesses and workers in knowledge-based high productivity sectors. Okay, yeah, fine. The UK has highly unequal levels of productivity between regions, with studies finding the UK is among the most regionally unequal advanced economies. It's also the most centralised advanced economy. I wonder if these are related to each other. In 2021, London had a GVA of per hour worked of 51 quid, but the rest of the UK averages less than 40, and it's 60% higher than the lowest performing region or country, which was Wales, RIP Wales. That's just over 30 quid. These disparities are well known to policymakers and have seen considerable focus as an economic priority. No, they've seen a considerable focus as a priority for words, but as Jen Williams and others will point out, very little in the way of actual meaningful action. Despite seeing the heaviest falls in commuting volumes, London has a strong infrastructure base from which to recover commuting patterns. In contrast, regional cities may struggle more, according to one of our stakeholders. Re-establishing the commuter city into northern regional cities is more difficult than in London as a result of the poorer transport infrastructure. Absolutely. With a focus on growth in every corner of the country, the new Labour government will consider the opportunities that devolution, the role of mayors, and improving left-behind areas in the country represent in achieving productive regional cities. Okay, fine. However, spatial disparities are not solely at regional level, but also between cities. Theories of agglomeration highlight that larger cities are expected to be more productive as their larger populations facilitate the accumulation of knowledge required by high productivity industrial sectors. However, large cities in Scotland, the north of England and the Midlands, such as Birmingham, Glasgow, Leeds, Liverpool and Manchester, are currently underperforming compared to smaller cities in the greater southeast, such as Brighton, Cambridge and Reading. This is partly explained by the fact that although high productivity sectors are found in the larger cities, the share of jobs that are in high productivity sectors is low. Smaller cities in the south tend to have around 1/3 of their jobs in the 5 most productive sectors compared to only around 10% of jobs in the large cities. Henry Murison, shout out Henry, from the Northern Paris Partnership also suggested that it was often due to a restrained travel to work area due to a lack of connectivity. Big northern cities need a significantly wider talent pool to reach the productivity levels expected for their size. See also the isochrones that Tom Forth and others pull together. It's a little bit we must have growth before infrastructure investment, Ben. Yeah, it's a dangerous statement. It seems a repeating pattern that the north is actually just Manchester, maybe Leeds, and levelling up is just moving stuff to Manchester. Yeah, quite. Yeah, no, the growth has to happen first, according to Labour, remember, before any of the investment happens, which is upside down. Investing in these cities will remain a priority. Yeah, there's the 47 billion quid number again. The new government aims to have growth in every corner of the country. Yep, fine. According to the Centre for Cities, in order to reach this objective, large UK cities would need to increase their density and make further investments in local transport infrastructure to increase the agglomeration effects. Quite. Other actions identified by Centre for Cities include increasing spending in parts of the country that lag behind the current national average, end austerity for local government, absolutely critical, reform local government and involve powers over services and spending, absolutely, facilitating bus franchising and the rest, to improve services, investing in struggling city centres through city centre productivity funds, whatever. Targeting R&D spending in places that currently underperform but have enough activity to suggest the... Okay, fine. That's a spend more on rail in the cities type situation that's key. So there's a bit of a comparison between different cities here. I have to say the Glasgow analysis surprises me a little bit, but I think that's because Glasgow and Edinburgh are actually a very successful urban hub outside of London. In the UK's biggest cities outside of London, just 40% of people are able to reach their city centre by public transport in less than 30 minutes, which lags behind the 70% who are able to do so in similar-sized European cities. That's pretty much the crux of it, that sentence. That's pretty much it. Let's see if that's... There's only one way to fix that, and that is reducing congestion at road level and building more urban dedicated transport. That's the only way you fix that. There's no other way to fix it. Everything else is sticking plaster short of fixing it with better transport connections, which is why I talk about it so much. So what else they're saying here? Yeah. However, stakeholders argued that investment based solely on journey time savings is insufficient. A broader city region approach is needed, focusing on increasing the effective travel to work area for the entire region, boosting the labour pool, and seeking to attract the type of higher paying jobs that drive productivity in southern cities. Okay. It feels a bit build our own identity. Don't copy the South. Just build the public transport networks, and the economy will start working better. Why do more with a Windows 11 PC? Go away. I know you're trying to get me to go to Windows 11, and I'm not going to do it because Windows 11 looks horrible. I'm going to stick with Windows 10 and remain unsupported and open to hacking. It's fine. Go away, Microsoft. God, I'm getting harassed by Microsoft during this episode, aren't I? Good grief. Get lost, Bill. Right, anyway, sorry about that. Henry Murison popping up again. The previous approach of levelling up focuses on giving cities in the UK the tools to be like London, according to Henry Murison, with little consideration for how different cities across the country face unique challenges and may not benefit from applying the London model to all. Yeah, absolutely fair enough. So yeah, this is talking about transport networks, leveraging a major northern city region, similar to the Netherlands Randstad region. Yeah, basically tying Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, tying them all together. That is key, and that's a really important part of what Transparent Route Upgrade can give the region if you build its high-speed connection too. Yes. Although some stakeholders have called for the inclusion of Birmingham in any northern rail infrastructure upgrades, there is currently a focus on improving east-west links across the north with a route connecting Liverpool, Manchester and Leeds at its core. Yeah, but there's no evidence that it's actually ever going to exist. And don't talk to me about the National Infrastructure Commission. Oh, they're talking to me about the National Infrastructure Commission, a body that I despise and look forward to its demise, except that it's not being killed off, it's just being grown and still going to be a treasury body. So, Tom Force maps are a great visual tool for representing the massive issues in Birmingham, Leeds in particular. Yeah, detour apps, absolutely. Well worth pulling those up. Penny for Sheffield. Yeah, absolutely, Katie. You are part of the North, yeah, too right. But unfortunately not on a straight line linking cities. That is one of the challenges, and that needs to be addressed and considered. And it can be easily if you build the right transport network. Yes, anyway, right, so there's the Randstad case study. People know what's going on in the Netherlands. They'll know that is an extremely successful urban area and served by a very dense series of urban transport systems. Recommendation: boosting the productivity and potential of cities in the north of England must remain at the heart of a future plan for growth. Enhanced transport connections and greater city density are key to achieving the agglomeration benefits currently enjoyed by smaller cities in the south of the country. Enhanced intercity. Oh dear, I've spotted a few typos here. Regional transport links has enhanced intercity regional transport links has the potential. There's some copy pasting been going on here. Has the potential to support a wider northern city region. Should be part of future discussions on the best way to boost growth. No discussions of high-speed rail as a tool to deliver local transport networks into existence. It's a lack of technical detail that I think is a challenge. But maybe I've missed it because it's in this small amount of text, but I suspect not. Anyway, right, the supporting themes, the sustainable city. Let's just jump to the recommendations. Oh, there are no recommendations. They're just kind of discussed about future gazing. Okay, right, fine. What stakeholders think about the future of cities? So these are the key insights that came up across the course of our discussions on the central themes. Hybrid working is here to stay. Online working alone does not provide all the interactions employees and businesses need. Fine. Cities benefit from the continued dynamic aspects of agglomeration. These have not been fully replicated digitally, something that's unlikely to change soon. Yeah, we know that. However, there are significant disparities across Britain, with larger cities in the north struggling to realise full agglomeration benefits, demanding a renewed focus. Yep. Sustainability themes were that climate change is already driving shifts in how people travel, how buildings are constructed, and how green space is harnessed. Over time, these shifts will dramatically change the way cities look and how we experience them. And relating to leisure, the leisure city, the experience of cities is increasingly front of mind, with more transactional leisure online or locally and more engaged experiential activities being sought out in cities. Get pissed, mate. Yeah, the usual. Then there's a few things that some range of topics that fell outside of our core themes, which were still important insights. Aging demographics, the aging city and the tech city. Unfortunately, this is like a human centipede of nonsense, of that people are talking about AI constantly. AI was expected by our stakeholders, which are predominantly managerial level people who don't understand AI, by our stakeholders having a significant impact on the future of work. No, potentially even reducing the number of people that actually need to work in any given economy. Like tech has said, every single time tech does a thing, it says this will mean fewer people working. No, it means more people being made redundant without new work, but nothing comes in to support them. The changes advanced technologies may demand of our cities that they're implemented are hard to define in advance. Yeah, don't make the changes. Just ignore it because it's nonsense. The disruption from a wider societal perspective, the disruption from AI could be so significant as to change our economic model, with some seeing the introduction of a universal basic income type approach as inevitable should AI cause such a significant shift in employment. It's an interesting discussion, but generative AI will not generate that because the generative AI bubble is in the process of bursting. All sectors will be seeking to find a way to balance the new opportunities and demands of AI with the needs of their workforce and customers, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. The aging city thing is much more insightful, frankly. So the conclusions. Well, we've just said all of them, I think. So it's all in here. So 3 recommendations made here. So each of the core themes. This is basically just repeating what they said before, isn't it? It's saying the more rail. So it's saying investment in. So recommendation 1 is further investment in service planning for suburban lines and stations may be needed. Recommendation 2 is needs to be supported by investment in transport infrastructure and housing stock. And recommendation 3 is creating enhanced intercity regional transport links has the potential to support a wider northern city region and should be part of future discussions. Yeah, okay, fine. Again, everyone's now moved to this, like, no, we're not allowed to say north-south because that's HS2, and everyone got upset about that. It's very frustrating because it's like those challenges are working in both axes, north and south, and east and west. And there we go. That is the report. So what do we think? That's fine. It says some things that... yeah, exactly. Yeah, Katie Fenn, you're right. You're not going to solve anything by focusing only on Leeds and Manchester. I'm so tired of this. Absolutely, Katie. Yeah. See also my proposals for what needs to happen at Sheffield. Sheffield needs its own, as a South Yorkshire Combined Authority, needs its own dedicated urban transport network. And as a result of the segregation that would necessitate, ideally through high-speed rail, you then get the fast links up to Leeds and across to Manchester. And of course, Teesside in the northeast, same again. And none of this means anything if Reeves continues her current tack. So yeah, so an interesting little report. I think it's nice to see something that's reasonably formal that's been adopted. There's something like someone like Haynes is comfortable putting his face and name against in the front of it, and advocating for the fact that a lot of the nonsense about changing travel patterns is somewhat rebuffed by this, which is good. I think that's important. So yeah, I think an interesting little report that, yeah. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Try as ever, chuck your questions over. But AI kills. Look up Atomic Shrimp AI books. Thank you, Tim Ballon. Nothing for Bradford and Newcastle either. No, absolutely, Katie. Yeah. Katie's pointing out that the document doesn't mention Sheffield in its examples at all. It only mentions it in the context of University of Sheffield study. Yeah, quite. I really should be providing the download links to these things, shouldn't I? Don't get me started on Ben Houchen. No, painful. Yeah. Okay, right. So, no, a bit of interesting chat, but not much. What's going on in front of me? Anything interesting for me to tell you all about, other than that I have a leaflet for Rail World here, actually, in front of me. There. Rail World. I picked this up when me and Besquickelhausen, Jay, were making our way around Peterborough, having a fun time. What do they have there? Well, they've got RTV 31 for starters, but they've also got a load of other model railways all hanging around. It's all very nice. There's loads of stuff there. It's marvellous. So I don't know why, but Rail World is getting a shout out. Is it something that's just going to disappear off the map soon? Possibly, because everything's on the brink of collapse in Britain right now. That's what they roll. Ina sharing my feelings on the lack of any mention of the East Midlands and the corridor to Grimsby and such, despite it being quite a populated corridor, which really needs attention, absolutely. Someone in the university keeps saying that they should have built HS2 from the north. How do I respond to that? Borislav, respond to it with, yes, that would have been a good idea from a political perspective, but it would have never have happened politically because of Treasury, because of the way the business case is developed, and also, crucially, because from an engineering perspective, the challenges are in the, like, you need to start in the south because that's where the most complex engineering happens. It's pretty straightforward to do the stuff further north. So it makes sense to start it in the south if you commit to the project. The trouble is government, of course, did not. It would have been politically savvy to have made, if you wanted the project to be built, which no government has, despite enacting it, the government always wanted an out. They would have started in London and up in Manchester and Leeds simultaneously and met in Birmingham, but alas not. Katie Fenn is absolutely spot on. We've got a golden opportunity in the north to build an economic area that breaks the unipolar economy in the UK by making it Manchester and Leeds centric is criminally narrow-minded. Strong agree. Yeah, I think if you're going to do HS2 properly, they should have started clearing and doing construction work in Leeds, in Manchester. The trouble with that is it would have involved a higher design budget to commence that stuff, yes. But that's how I would have delivered HS2, is not from the south northwards, because it's so obvious that it was going to get shit-canned. Like, the right thing to do would have been to commence from London and doing physical work in Leeds and Manchester, because cancelling something that was actively being built in Leeds and Manchester would have been politically suicidal. I should have beeped that because the YouTube algorithm will be angry with it. That's political. That word was. I need Devon. Where are you? I need you to say. Can't say that. Over me saying that. Anyway, right. Is it true they started West Coast mainline electrification north south? No. They did middle downwards, sort of. They did start in Liverpool and Manchester and send electrification southwards. Yes-ish. Yeah. Even just building the new stations, well, I think just commencing the work from both ends would have been the right thing to do. The challenge we have in the UK is we don't have much construction capacity. So it would have, but we wouldn't have delivered it any more slowly than government's currently managing if you took a look at the whole picture. So, yeah. Anyway, right. Lots of terrific discussion going on in the chat. There's no such thing as, it shouldn't be angry prefixed with political. Yes, thank you, Howard Meow. Yeah, you're right. It should be all right. Everyone needs mass transit, absolutely. Right, so the usual outro stuff. The audio is caught up. If you want little tidbit audio bonus stuff, there are 4 episodes with extra bonus bits that you YouTuber folks have not enjoyed and did not get the benefit of, because the audio is so late that I gave the audio only listeners some bonuses. So I hope you enjoyed those. But we're now back up to speed again. So yes, available on all good podcasting platforms. I hope. The usual plugs. PayPal.me/GarethDennis for loose change and abuse. GarethDennis.co.uk/merch for the merchandise. GarethDennis.co.uk/Discord for the chat to continue forever. And Patreon.com/GarethDennis to support me. Again, thank you so much for all the support you've given over the last few months. You've allowed me to survive. I need to finish the admin that I have to do to get paid by my new employer. ADHD makes these things hard. Even if that's, like, I think I'm finished now, but I just need to double check because there are so many systems that I don't understand. But that's fine. The book is on tour. Pay attention to dates. Watch this space. That's another thing I need to coordinate and organise. These are not my natural strengths, as you might have noticed. Likewise, by the lack of the good guests that I know I do want, I need to send them a pile of dates, and I have not done that either. W2IP, my run has the last episode with me as co-host is now out for the bonus subscribers, the Patreon subscribers to W2IP. It's out. It's on farming. I have thoughts as well as Rob from Podcasting's Praxis and the gang. And I had a lovely time, and just so much love to them and to the fans, and to those of you who are here from W2IP, particular love to you, but also to all the people who love both shows. There's a sizable overlap, and they are my friends. It's nice to hang out with my friends and record a podcast, and I will miss it, but the timings of recordings are incompatible both with having a day job and maintaining sanity with a little one, because recording from 11 till 2 a.m. is it's bonkers. And his watch has ended. Exactly, Katie. Train works. I need to pick a plan for Bristol or Cardiff. Yes, the list of locations for the tour are in last week's episode if you want to pick them up. But I'll pop them in the Discord, and there'll be a general tour. I'll probably convert book or convert the book channel to book tour channel on the Discord, and we can have all chats relating to that. Next week, episode 252, what we must learn from the Grenfell Tower disaster brackets 2, because we're going through the recommendations from the final inquiry report, and we are joined by Alistair Temple. My good chum Alistair is joining us, and it's a pre-record because we recorded it earlier today at lunchtime, in fact. I hope there is, well, in fact, I don't hope, I know that there's a lot that was very interesting that we pulled out of that, so well worth joining that one and listening in, I think. Other than that, it's a delight to have been with you all. Look at this, less than an hour, marvellous, we're doing it. Everyone, I'm going to wave because I think that's quite enough of that. It's just been a delight to have you all along. Will I be joining you live in the chat next week? What am I doing next week? It's Wednesday. I think I'm presenting to the York Green Party. So if you're in York and you're in the Green Party, or if you're in the Green Party and you're local enough to York that you can come along, then do come along, because I'm going to be presenting a paper or a little presentation which I will describe. And for the Green Party people in here, you'll know what this is in reference to. Think local, act global. Thinking locally, acting globally. It's probably what my presentation is going to be titled, because I think I like to shake people vigorously by the shoulders. So that's going to be fun. So that's what I'm doing next week, which is why there's a pre-record. In any case, me, my short hair, my t-shirt, and my mundane watch, thanks November, are going to wave and bid you farewell. Everyone, cheerio!